pork. We pray, we fast. We don't fornicate, we get married. We do, we don't. But this discussion says nothing about the values of Islam that informs any action, be it the do's or the don'ts. And that's what we need to bring a jihad for, a struggle in order to change. Let me talk to you about the 5 pillars of Islam. Each and every one of them is really meant to promote a value. It is about values, even the 5 pillars. When we talk about the first, which is a declaration of faith, right? In Arabic, the term is shahada, which translates to bearing witness, which means God consciousness. So the very first value that has to be there for a Muslim to be a Muslim is God consciousness. To be fully aware of the divine, now and at all times, because that informs everything else. That is your first starting block. Moving from there, we talk about prayer. What does that translate to in Arabic? Salah. What does the actual Arabic word mean at its root? It means a connection. Salah means to connect. Prayer means to connect. It is about having the God consciousness, but also having a conversation with God. Being able to personalize your relationship with God. And then we talk about almsgiving, right? Giving money to the poor. What is the Arabic term for that? Zakat. What does it actually translate to in English? Purification. What is the value there? Purity. When we give money to the poor, it is to purify oneself. From what? From selfishness, from greed, from being self-centered. It is, another value is empathy, right? Feeling the need of others and actually giving to others as such. It isn't some kind of chore. It's meant to be something that comes from within as a result of values and as a result of a thought process. And then we get to the point of fasting. And again, when we fast, the purpose of that, obviously, everything we do is because God commanded us to do, but there's a purpose for everything. And the purpose of fasting, again, is to create a sense of social empathy. If we talk about social justice, we talk about that every day. Well, you can't have social justice if you don't have an exercise towards social justice. And these acts of worship in Islam are not just some kind of random chores that you do just because you're a Muslim. Each and every one of them, just as if you want to build up a strong, sturdy body of muscles, you go hit the gym, right? You have an exercise plan, you have a certain diet, because without that, you will not have the health and the physique that you're looking for. Likewise, acts of worship in Islam are but a means to an end. They are to strengthen the soul and the spirit, much like exercise, physical exercise strengthens the body, in order to set it up to do something. And that something is jihad, is to help change the world for the better. And those values are really the core issue. And again, this is not just a problem within the non-Muslim community. Even within our own Muslim community, we don't talk about values enough. When we're talking about our mosques, or our dress code, or the fact that we don't drink alcohol, or any of these things, it almost seems as if they're just random commandments with no sense of context and no value set to them, and that needs to change. Finally, the final and 5th pillar of Islam is Hajj, or pilgrimage. Again, there's a very important value in that, and a very important spiritual exercise. And that is what? Unity and diversity, and unity in diversity. Unity in diversity. You see essentially a subset of humanity descending on one place, dressed essentially in the same clothing. Men shave their heads, women wear the headscarf, and everybody looks almost the same. Whether you're black or white or Asian or Latino or this or that, old or young, everybody does the same thing at the same time from all over the world in one great expression of human unity under God. Now you talk to me about unity without talking to me about Hajj, and that's impossible for us as Muslims. It's an exercise that brings it into a visual and an experience. It isn't just a chore, it isn't random. Moving on. When we talk about identity, whether it's faith identity or identity of citizenship, it's very important to understand something. That each and every one of you is a complex human being. None of you are one-dimensional. All of us have multiple identities. Not that we're schizophrenic, but that we have different contexts that inform who we are. For example, if you look at one individual, that person could be a father, that person could be a son at the same time, a brother, a doctor, a Muslim, an American, right? These are all different identities. Now, here's what I'm getting at. When we come to talk about our citizenship, when we come to talk about our relationship to our nation state, the social contract between us and the nation state, which is what defines citizenship, which is equal to all of us regardless of our complexities and our different identities. Here's the question that I have. At what point am I required or expected to hyphenate one of these identities and not the other? Why am I a Muslim-American? I actually object to that. I don't believe in that. As an American, as someone who stands before a court of law, if I have to, before the Constitution, before the polling booth, I'm equal to each and every one of the 300 billion other Americans. So are you. Nothing distinguishes or changes me from that. In that citizenship relationship, it's just American for all of us. I'll tell you why there are hyphenations. Because there's the assumption that there are default citizens and then qualified citizens. You will never hear Anglo-American, you will never hear Protestant-American, because supposedly in the minds of some, that is a default citizenship. You will hear Jewish-American, Catholic-American, you will hear Italian-American, German-American, Irish-American, Egyptian-American. But again, why do I need to append my faith and my citizenship? Do I append the fact that I'm a son? Does anybody ever call themselves daughter American or son American? Or doctor American? Or lanky guy American? I mean, you have all different things that describe you. Why your faith? So that's very important for us to understand. And the reason why I'm talking to you about this is that at the end of the day, if we're going to talk about a problem to discrimination, to the sort of civil rights abuses that we see for any faith community, we have to talk about a proactive solution that is citizenship. And what that means is two things. Number one, equal opportunity for all, regardless of their backgrounds, faith, ethnic, gender, or otherwise. And two, a meritocracy. Basically, the fact that whatever merit you personally have is the final determination of where you end up, because you have that equal opportunity. And that's not going to happen if we continue to put some Americans in the niche and others in the mainstream, just by virtue of where they were born and what faith they follow. That's the proactive solution. It's true and utter citizenship as a descriptor of our relationship to the nation state. How much time do we have? Now, I would be remiss to talk to you tonight and not talk to you about Islamophobia, one of the main issues that I, as a Muslim civil rights activist, deals with on a daily basis, whether it's in speeches or debates or television interviews on Fox or CNN or NBC or whatever else, or in the civil rights cases that we have, whether in the pre-litigation phase or in the court systems. Let's back up again and bring in some context. Islamophobia, the fear of Islam, the irrational fear of Islam and Muslims. Essentially, some say a form of bigotry, some say not. But let's analyze that for a second. Is Islamophobia a form of racism? Raise your hand. Is Islamophobia a form of racism? Okay. Those who didn't raise their hand, can somebody volunteer to tell me why not? Now you're not so brave. Go ahead. Okay? He's saying that, I think if I heard him correctly, that fearing something doesn't make you a racist. But what if as a result of that fear, you encroach upon someone's civil rights, or get them fired, or don't get them hired, or any of these things? Would that be considered a form of racism?